All right, let's see if we can fire this thing up here. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, are we online? We think we're online. We are online. We are live on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Twitch. Hello, TikTok. How's it going, everybody? SML, hello. Emanuela, hi. Alex God, hello. Interactive, hello. What's the news, bro? It's a lot of news today. So today we're going to start with the hantavirus. And that ship is getting closer and closer to the Canary Islands, which is territory Spanish. And so we are going to be talking to Danielle Hamamdjian, who is out there in Spain, where this thing is going to pull into port. It's not going to pull up to the docks. It is going to anchor off the coast. And, you know, they have 2 epidemiologists on board. So they are trying to manage that quarantine as best they can. So here's the thing about that ship, though, too. You see that ship, it all looks self-contained because, you know, we see it and we're like, oh, my gosh, it's got to be all over that ship. You got to remember, there's quarantines inside of the quarantine too. That ship is a lot bigger than you might imagine. So there are a lot of people that are isolating. There are a lot of people that, you know, are just monitoring for any symptoms. And so they are saying that they are moving towards land and they are excited for this possibly to be over sometime soon. Meanwhile, there's all kinds of contact tracing going on right now. There was a flight attendant that is showing some symptoms who is never on the boat. So that is raising alarm bells. And we are going to put it all into context with Anne Ramoyne. She is one of the world's leading epidemiologists, and she's going to separate the noise from what we actually know right now. Let's see. Ahmed, stay down, turn down, spell up. Okay. Jenny, hello. This is a nightmare. I hope it's a nightmare that we all wake up from very, very soon. And that might be the case. Maybe this is just a very good reminder that we should all be careful and stay vigilant and wash our hands and just, you know that a pandemic can happen at any moment, but this one is not it. And maybe this will be all relatively contained to this boat, and it will run its course, and the people are able to get off the boat safely and get past that incubation period and that isolation period. SML, Lisa's doing good. Everyone is recovering. Emanuela, hi. Monkey Beasts, we are online, thankfully. What do you guys want to talk about today? What are you seeing in the news that piques your interest? Did you guys see what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz? It's another pretty confusing day. So just a little while ago, we started hearing reports that there were sirens going off in Iran and that there were incoming missile attacks, some of the neighbors in the Middle East. And then it looks like CENTCOM, what happened was CENTCOM sent through 3 missile-guided destroyers through the Strait of Hormuz. Remember, like, we're in the middle of this ceasefire. There's a negotiation happening maybe for a potential peace breakthrough. And then the United States has sent in these warships through the Strait of Hormuz. The United States saying these are international waters. But remember, both countries are like, Strait of Hormuz is like, we're issuing a naval blockade of Iranian flagged ships going through. Iran has said that they were instituting this blockade. So how U.S. warships transiting factors into all this, that's a question that we are going to be discussing tonight with Richard Engel and Aaron David Miller. But it sounds like, you know, what happened was those ships went through the Strait of Hormuz. They were fired upon by missiles, by drones, by fast attack boats, and then they responded. And there were no U.S. assets hit. And then the United States hit a bunch of command and control centers and missile launch sites, drone launch sites. So got kinetic. So that's the latest in Iran that we know of. And then there was a baby eagle that was born in Chicago. That was a piece of good news. that's out there. We've got some more good news coming up. It's a hackathon that we were going to talk about. And then if you're out east, you're going to be seeing some planes, trains, and automobiles that are sporting quite the constitutional look because, it's almost the 250th and things are getting somewhat of a makeover. Abe, yes, the passing of Ted Turner. May he rest in peace. And we had a story about his legacy yesterday. You might want to check that out. Why is the screen black in your studio? There's going to be some sort of big announcement from Washington, from the White House about UFOs, UAPs, aliens, what do we know, all that stuff. You know that this administration has signaled that they want all of the truth out there. And there are rumors circulating that tomorrow may be the day that some of this disclosure begins. The government will be sharing some more information. I can't get anybody to go on record about it right now, but tomorrow may be a different story. So stay tuned, right? But you know that we had Representative Luna on here. She was demanding the release of 46 very specific videos that the DoD has. So maybe we'll see some videos tomorrow. Maybe we won't. Who knows? It is always the spinning question mark of when we're going to get straight answers, but there is a circle around tomorrow for some reason. So, again, fingers crossed. Hey, MMA wifey, great to see you. And if we find out we've been visited by aliens, then what? Yeah, then what? What do you think? Here's the thing. First of all, I'm not sure if they're aliens, because it's, there's a bunch of different reasons, but I think whatever it is, personally, I could handle the truth. I would like to know what's going on. I don't necessarily think we're the smartest beings in the universe. And so the idea that there may be higher intelligence out there, that doesn't scare me. And I think that most people could handle that. But who knows, right? New cars, new ships, new phones, that would be nice. Aliens want to skip Earth. Possibly. My opinion is the only one that counts. Judge Judy. She's the real one. She is the real one. SML, what did you ask? But yeah, what do you think? If we were visited by a higher intelligence, would you guys freak out? I don't think we would. I think we'd be like, yeah, we knew. We already knew that. Let's see. William, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. Let's see. This wall is filled with the image that we're going to be talking about at the beginning of this show. And it is the image of the ship that is under quarantine right now because of the hantavirus. I think that's what you're asking, SML? Yeah, Jenny. Yep, I think you're talking about whether it would be amazing or not if there was a higher intelligence. I think it would be amazing. I would really like. I'd ask questions. Hey, what questions would you ask? What questions? What do you eat? How do we seem to you? Are we doing this okay? Yeah, those are great questions, and I'm pretty sure they'd be like, you are unhinged and get your stuff together, would be my guess, but maybe they could teach us some stuff. Let's see, I still think we have something new and shocking every day, so we are getting desensitized. That's totally, totally true. Totally true, especially with like AI. I mean, if it happens, we're gonna be like, that doesn't look as cool as we saw AI generative images portray, which would be pretty sad. The LA skyline, this one right here, yes, that's the LA skyline right there. You would. Okay, you would ask, and William, would you be down to go? Would you travel there? And never come back? Come on. Then you can't watch our show. We can't all hang out. 5 o'clock, 4:55. Canvas cyber attack. Oh man, I start doing some research. Kat, what would I do without you? What? Yikes. Wow. Wow, that is a big attack. No, we don't. I did not see this earlier. That is pretty wild. We do have a story about a hackathon, but darn it. Let's see. Yeah, dang, that's wild. Let me see if we can fit it into headlines possibly. I don't think we have it confirmed here.
About 2.5.
This is a great flag. Thank you guys so very much.
Starting at the big wall.
Starting at the big wall? Okay. Yep. Got it. All right. Thank you. Yeah, that's a very good question. Why are they targeting higher education databases? I mean, it's pretty telling about how their cybersecurity is. Let's see, what else? On entertainment, maybe they will. Our universe truly is vast.
Bringing the doctor like yesterday during the Camilla?
I'd be more comfortable with aliens, I think. Let's see. Yeah, they would be ahead of us in tech. Okay, we've got about 2 minutes. 2 minutes before the show starts. We're definitely not the smartest ones. Agreed. What else are you guys wondering today? And also, how do you guys think the live stream is going? What can we do better? What do you like? It's a very new way of watching the news here. I'm always wondering whether the pre-show is something that people are interested in, or whether we should just jump into the races and then, if we can, chat during commercial break. What's for dinner? That's a very good question. I don't know, and now I'm hungry.
1 minute.
Laker wins. Morning from across the pond. Hello, Glasgow. Taco Bell. Okay. I love the alien talk and the Taco Bell talk all at the same time. We're back there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, here's how this is gonna work. In about 40 seconds, the news show is gonna start. I'm gonna put myself right here. And we are gonna start with this hantavirus outbreak. And we are hopefully going to put context to what seems to be people panicking over headlines right now. And there's a lot of nuance to this. So we're gonna be talking about that very, very soon. But in 20 seconds, that's all gonna start. And feel free to let us know what you think in the comments and continue the wonderful conversation you guys are all having. I know everybody's becoming friends in there, which we love to see. So here we go. 5 seconds before show. Have a good show. Have a good show. Have a good show, everybody. Hello, and we are starting tonight with growing concern over that cruise ship hantavirus outbreak, with health officials around the world scrambling now to trace passengers who got off the ship before it was put into quarantine. And the list of where they went, it is growing. Contact tracing now happening in Denmark, in Germany, the UK, both Canada and here in the United States. Back here at home, the CDC is closely monitoring people in 5 states, including out here in California. NBC News has confirmed that the CDC has activated its emergency operations center in Atlanta. And while the White House also says the risk remains low to Americans, they are remaining, quote, vigilant. Here's what we know so far. The strain found on the ship is known as the Andes strain. On that ship, there have been 8 possible cases, 3 deaths. The virus can and has spread from person to person. It could have a fatality rate between 35 to 50%. And take a listen to what one member of the WHO had to say this morning about the spread of the virus.
I want to be unequivocal here. This is not SARS-CoV-2. This is not the start of a COVID pandemic. This is an outbreak that we see on a ship.
And as that quarantine ship makes its way to Spain's Canary Island, a Dutch flight attendant who may have come into contact with one of the ship's passengers is now showing symptoms of the virus, but is not yet tested positive. And let's bring in Danielle Hamamjian, who's in Spain right now following these updates. So, Danielle, what else do we know about that flight attendant? She was never on the boat, to be clear. But what do they mean when they say that she is showing symptoms now? And why don't we have, like, conclusive test results?
Yeah, no, she was not on that ship, Gadi, but she was on the flight from Johannesburg to Amsterdam on April 25th. And so was the 69-year-old Dutch woman who later died of the virus. And according to Dutch media, that Dutch woman was on the on the plane for a short period of time, but given her medical condition, it was decided by crew members that she should leave, and she died the day after. Now, the flight attendant is now being hospitalized for possible symptoms. We don't have the results of the tests yet. We don't know if it's confirmed whether or not she has the virus, but worth noting here, I think that what's puzzling for a lot of people when it comes to this case with the flight attendant is that experts keep saying that you can catch the virus, you can only catch the virus through close, prolonged contact. So what was the nature and the extent of the contact this flight attendant had with this Dutch woman on the plane? So I think that's a question a lot of people will be asking. But worth noting here is that health authorities in the Netherlands are also contacting everybody who was on that plane, who made the journey from Johannesburg to Amsterdam on that April 25th flight, Gadi.
Yeah, quite the undertaking now. And what are passengers on the cruise ship saying today as it heads towards the Canary Island? And as I understand it, there are now epidemiologists on board with them, right?
Gotta stop meeting like this. I know. That's right. And it's, I guess for them, it's the countdown now. And they're sort of been living in a bubble, if you will. 12 nationalities, more than 100 people in all, who I'm sure are thrilled to be heading home after this ordeal. Among those people on board are 17 Americans, and one of our colleagues at NBC KTVZ, an affiliate, spoke to an American doctor who is on board and talked about having to step in when things got really bad to help out. But he says, as the operator of the cruise ship has said, that there are no symptomatic passengers at this moment. A lot of them appear quite well. He did say that there were 2 WHO, World Health Organization experts there, 2 Dutch infectious diseases experts there as well. So they feel like they are in good hands. But a lot of people who are posting material on social media appear to be relieved and quite happy, as I say, that they are finally heading home. Take a listen.
We are headed for the Canary Islands. Everything is fine. No new cases.
What matters most is that the sick passengers who were with us on the ship were allowed to disembark in this country, and we said goodbyes to them as air ambulances flew them to the Netherlands. Meanwhile, we are heading toward the Canary Islands. Hopefully, everything will turn out well.
And of course, it can take several weeks, as the experts have pointed out, for the symptoms to appear. So the WHO has made it very clear there could be more cases in the next few weeks, few months.
And Danielle, I understand that we've gotten word that the ship is going to be allowed to dock, and yet the local pushback continues, right?
Yeah, where I am now, the port, this is where the cruise ship will be anchoring, not docking, but anchoring off the coast of Tenerife, and it's going to happen Sunday morning. And you're right, regional leaders here in the Canary Islands were opposed to the decision, but they said at the end of the day, it is the decision of the Spanish government. They have jurisdiction here, and the regional leaders were given assurances that the ship would not be docked, but would be anchored, so staying at a distance. And what we understand will happen is that the passengers will be evacuated by boat here to the port. There'll be a cordoned off area. They'll then board vehicles that'll be in isolation, under guard, taken to the airport that will also be cordoned off, an area specifically for them. That's about 20 minutes away, Gadi. But even with all those precautions in place, you're right, there is still opposition. There was a protest today, or several protests today, as well as I've said, opposition by regional leaders. But ultimately, the Spanish government has said that once the WHO approached the government here to take in this ship, they said it was a question of a moral duty to accept the ship that could not dock in Cape Verde. Gadi, back to you.
And again, anchored there eventually, but not docked, an important distinction. Danielle Hamamdjian, really appreciate all of your reporting. Thank you. And let's bring in NBC News correspondent Camila Bernal. Camila, here in the United States, let's start with the former passengers who have returned to the United States, to Georgia that we know of, Virginia, Texas, California, Arizona. Are any of them symptomatic, and how are they being monitored?
So in terms of are they symptomatic, all of these states have said no, Gadi. They are not symptomatic, and that's the one thing that essentially has all of these states not necessarily concerned. In terms of the monitoring, that's a much more difficult question to answer because a lot of these states just not giving us those answers. The only ones that sort of gave us some indication of what's going on is Texas and Arizona. Texas saying that they're asking people to essentially just monitor themselves and take temperatures every day. And if something happens, then report it to authorities. And Arizona actually said the same thing, that they're asking people to just do it themselves and to check their temperatures every day. Arizona specifically answered the question of, are they quarantining? Is the person in Arizona quarantining? And they said, no, not right now, because that person has not tested positive and has not shown any symptoms. So we have not asked that person to quarantine. I did, though, talk to an expert today from Johns Hopkins, and she said they should be quarantining. So there is some concern in terms of what happens with these people if the incubation period is weeks long and they're not showing symptoms now. It is still possible, according to that expert that I talked to essentially shed the virus and to have it go to other people because it is a human-to-human transmission. So we won't know until weeks or months, like Danielle said, because of the fact that this is something that could manifest later, Gadi.
Yeah, all depends on the clock. It was really interesting to hear Danielle's report and mention of the doctor that had to step in because things got so bad on the ship. And he was also an American, right? There are still Americans on the ship right now.
Yeah, those Americans are still on the ship, and the Spanish government actually said that they were going to send, or that America would send an airplane to basically pick up these 17 Americans. We've reached out to the federal government here and have not gotten a response or a direct answer as to how that's going to be handled. There's been a lot of back and forth between the CDC saying that all of this should be directed to the State Department, and the State Department not necessarily answering our questions. But what we think will happen is that the U.S. will send a plane, pick up those 17 Americans, bring them back home. And then the question is, how are they going to be monitored once they get into the U.S.? Maybe it will be up to the states, because as of now, that's what it seems like is happening. It's just the states handling the cases in the different regions of the country. But again, we just don't have a lot of clarity on any of this, Gadi.
NBC's Camila Bernal. Thank you so much, Camila. Let's turn in, come to UCLA's Dr. Anne Ramoyne, one of the world's leading epidemiologists, hopefully for a little bit of clarity. I know that there's still so much that we don't know, but in terms of what we do know, I think the first question everybody has is this going to be another global pandemic? Could it turn into something like COVID? And so let's start at the beginning. Like, how does this thing spread here?
Well, this is the thing. Everybody is, of course, having flashbacks, thinking about what happened with COVID. And I think that we all agree, all of the epidemiologists and the scientific community agree that that's not what we're seeing here. This is a very different virus. Let's go back to what the differences are. Number one, with COVID, it was a completely new virus, something we'd never seen before. We've seen this virus before. We know what this virus is. We have diagnostics for it. We have a lot of information. And so we're not starting at zero and going from there. And so what we know is that we've got people who've been exposed. They're gathering a lot of data right now in terms of what people's exposures are. They're doing all the right things by quarantining people, making sure that we can break chains of transmission. So I just want to put that out there, that it is a very, very different situation than what we were dealing with back in 2020.
Hopefully a lot of people that are watching right now feel a little bit better. And yet, you know, what we also know is the timeline that happens with contact tracing, and then what that looks like with headlines, with so much attention now on this case. Like, we are going to see contact tracing. We are going to see more states included in some of this tracing. Like, level set with us. What's about to happen? Because it does seem like this is going to balloon out, even if it's not getting worse.
Absolutely. What we're going to see here in the United States and globally is what's supposed to happen, which is a really good epidemiologic investigation and using all of the tools that we know work. So we're going to see all of the people that have been on that ship, and frankly, people that were in contact with this couple, and where they were, where they may have had an exposure to rodents, all of that collected together. And then we're going to figure out who was exposed to whom and when, and what kind of exposure. Were they in very close proximity? Were they just sharing the same room, passing each other in the hallways? I mean, we don't really know those kinds of things.
Because we don't know transmit, like we think we may know maybe droplets, but we don't know exactly how this goes from human to human, right?
Right. Well, what we do know is that this Andes virus, it does transmit from person to person, and there are some cases that we've seen. We've seen cases where at a party we had people sitting at the same table getting it, and then some contacts going on from there. So we know it does transmit person to person. It does not transmit as efficiently as some viruses like a coronavirus. And in fact, there's even been a case, I was just reading a case report of somebody who had it in 2018, not the first time we've had a case of Andes virus here in the United States. And the woman who had it actually flew back to the US and had, I think, 53 different contacts. Not one person got it during that time. So I think very important to note that there are going to be a lot of pieces that are going to be pulled together. We're going to be quarantining people who've been exposed during this period of time, ideally, and then following up on contacts and watching them in case they end up with fever or any signs or symptoms.
One of the sketchiest, or at least the most logistically complicated pieces of all of this is the incubation time. Like, this is, what's the incubation time on this?
The incubation time for this kind of a hantavirus can be anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. It's a really, really long time. 6 weeks.
Yeah, asking somebody like, where were you 6 weeks ago? What were you doing 8 weeks ago?
Right.
That's wild.
Right. So it's going to require a lot of follow-up. And in terms of the people who very sadly passed, it's going to be hard to reconstruct their timeline if we don't have that information. And that information is going to be very, very valuable. But you're right. For your average person, I mean, I don't remember what I was doing 6 weeks ago necessarily, at exactly every person that I interacted with. So putting those pieces together as carefully as possible is going to be important. But the good news is this was on a ship. This was, I mean, the good news and bad news is that it was on a ship. Ships are very good at incubating and kind of amplifying disease because people are in tight quarters. But the other thing is it was a small ship. We know who was in principle associated with these people during this time period. So the numbers of people that we have to follow is much smaller.
And it's incredible that they're on that ship, that all of a sudden this mysterious illness starts spreading, and they're able to identify it as hantavirus. I mean, this could have been a mystery illness for quite some time, had it been, some other circumstance.
Exactly.
Doctor, thank you so much for illuminating all of this for us. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
Now to the war with Iran, where just hours ago the tension ratcheted up yet again. The U.S. Navy sending 3 warships through the Strait of Hormuz, and then all kinds of shooting started. CENTCOM saying as the U.S. Navy-guided missile destroyers made their way into the strait, Iranian forces launched missiles, drones, and small boats against them. But the Pentagon says all incoming attacks were intercepted and no U.S. assets were struck. U.S. then targeted Iranian missile sites, command centers, and other military facilities. This video shows explosions over a neighborhood in Tehran, consistent with some of the CENTCOM reporting. The president on Truth Social threatening even more strikes in Iran, saying we'll knock them out a lot harder if Iran doesn't get their deal signed fast, which of course raises the question, is the peace deal still on the table and what does it look like? Iran says they are currently reviewing the latest proposal from the U.S. No response yet on how these strikes could factor into all of that. Now let's get to NBC's Richard Engel, who is in Jerusalem tonight. Richard, what are we learning about what happened here?
So all of us today were anticipating some sort of diplomatic response from Iran to the U.S.'s latest peace initiative, to the ceasefire proposal, what's being described as a 14-point plan. So we were watching diplomacy very closely, and then suddenly, during the nighttime hours here, not that long ago, there was this escalation, and reports started coming in that there were explosions happening in the Strait of Hormuz, and there was an exchange of fire. And U.S. military officials tell NBC News that Iran started this, that U.S. destroyers were operating, 3 of them, in the Strait of Hormuz when suddenly they came under an unprovoked attack. That's how they described it, from Iranian fast boats, which are these small boats that Iran has been using for decades, really, to protect the Strait of Hormuz and to repel assaults, from drones and from missiles, none of them hitting the U.S. vessels, no reports of casualties, and the U.S. responding to destroy the incoming fire and the boats and to attack the sites that were responsible for launching them, command and control sites. Iran tells the story in reverse, acknowledging that there was this exchange of fire, but saying that the U.S. attacked first and that Iran responded. Iran says the situation is now contained and, quote, returned back to normal. And CENTCOM, the U.S. Central Command, which is responsible for military operations in the Middle East, said that it does not seek an escalation. So it seems that both sides are, at least for now, trying to tamp this down. So it doesn't mean that the peace talks are over, but it was not how things were expected to plan out today. But when you have warships and you have hostile countries just opposite each other, and they're both claiming sovereignty over this waterway, today we saw an escalation.
Yeah, it's so difficult because in this conflict, we see so much posted online, the threats, the demands posted for the world to see, and yet there's a lot that the world doesn't see, namely the specifics on the ceasefire here. And I imagine when there was negotiation or talk of this ceasefire, like the Strait of Hormuz, both Iran and the United States say that they have a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. My question is, moving U.S. warships through that strait, does that violate the ceasefire?
It depends who you ask, frankly. It depends also where U.S. warships move through the strait. The U.S. policy is that the Strait of Hormuz is international waters. It should be open to all. There should be freedom of navigation, and that it will force open the strait if necessary to protect that principle. Mind you, the Strait of Hormuz was open before the U.S. and Israel launched a surprise attack against Iran, killing many of its leaders, including its supreme leader. Those leaders been replaced by many other military officials and the supreme leader's son, Moshtaba. But the U.S. is operating on the principle that it must remain an open waterway. After the U.S. began the attack with Israel and continued the war against Iran, Iran moved to close the strait. And just a few days ago, there was an attempt by the U.S. to force its way through the Strait of Hormuz, this so-called Project Freedom. It only lasted about 24 hours until other Gulf allies, particularly Saudi Arabia, was uncomfortable with it, and according to NBC's reporting, did not allow the U.S. military to operate from bases in Saudi Arabia. So that mission to blast through the Strait of Hormuz has been shelved, at least for the moment.
Does this, though, look a little bit like a Project Freedom Light, or at least a maximum pressure during negotiations?
Well, not from the American point of view. Their story is that they were transiting actually out of the Strait of Hormuz. They were going from the Strait of Hormuz toward the Gulf of Oman, and that they were attacked in an unprovoked way. So that it is not what happened a few days ago when the U.S. announced that it was starting this Project Freedom, and then immediately sent in ships and other allied cargo ships, started moving through the Strait of Hormuz to test the Iranians' will, and the Iranians fired on them. This time, the Americans say they were leaving, and they were hit, and they responded.
Interesting. So difficult to keep track of the entire timeline here. Richard Engel, thank you so much. And for more on this, let's bring in Aaron David Miller, a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. David, good to see you. I mean, how close are we to things going south here? Is the peace talk still ongoing?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can shoot and negotiate at the same time, Gotti, and that's essentially what's happening. I think we have to be realistic here, though. The Iranians have made it unmistakably clear that the Straits of Hormuz are not going to return to the way the situation existed on February 28th. So any challenge, either in Project Freedom on one hand, or even the passage of American warships, is going to draw an Iranian response. They are determined to change the status quo. And you'll notice the Wall Street Journal's reporting, the only 3 points that this one-page memorandum that allegedly is going to be the subject of discussions next week in Islamabad, the only 3 points that are mentioned, how to open the straits on one hand, define what open means. Number 2, how to end the blockade that the U.S. has imposed. And number 3, security guarantees on how to avoid another conflict. There's no mention of the nuclear issue and the other issues which the administration is interested in joining. So I think right now, as long as you have a standoff, closure of the straits, blockade, you're going to have tests, you're going to have the potential of escalation. But it's quite clear that both sides, frankly, even though there is no ceasefire, they are essentially pretending that they are adhering to one, which I think, frankly, I'm looking for good news here. That's not a bad piece of news, because if you could buy some time and space, maybe next week you can actually get to the negotiations.
Yeah, even these little blips do show that the normalcy right now is a default of restraint, at least according to the last couple of weeks here. But I do want to ask. I mean, obviously, moving ships through the Strait of Hormuz into the Gulf of Oman, like in the middle of the peace talks, diplomatically that was a gamble, but strategically, like militarily, why would you take ships out of the close proximity to Iran? Is there a military strategy there? Is this a repositioning?
I don't know what the U.S. Navy's objective was by trying to transit. I suspect they're constantly testing. They're looking for ways to demonstrate that, in effect, the Iranians have not, quote unquote, closed the straits. The Iranians claim, of course, that the Navy fired on a U.S. tanker, which then resulted in strikes on these naval vessels. None of the missiles, they were all intercepted. Then the U.S. Navy responded by attacking an island to the north of the straits, and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps base at Bandar Abbas. So that's a significant escalation to do that, and yet the Iranians are willing to basically cap this particular round.
And hopefully those peace talks continue. Aaron David Miller, always good to see you. Thank you so much. And while the war in Iran continues to play out, Trump's trade war, that is continuing as well. And tariffs were likely top of mind today for Brazil's president, who met with President Trump at the White House, especially after Trump temporarily slapped a 50% tariff on Brazilian products. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in the Vatican, Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with another one of Trump's critics, Pope Leo XIV. You can see there, that is Rubio, who is a Catholic himself, gifting the first American Pope with a little crystal football. And then in return, the pontiff presented Rubio with this very symbolic pen.
Olive being, of course, plant of peace. There's the coat of arms here of pontificate here.
Now let's get out to Washington, where NBC News chief White House correspondent Garrett Haake is standing by. Garrett, let's start with Trump and Lula. Can you give us a little bit of background on their relationship, and how did today's meeting go?
Yeah, the optics of this meeting were bad, but by all accounts, it actually went pretty well. These are two men who are stylistically very similar in kind of their populist presentation, but politically very different. They have been very divided over tariffs on Brazil, which were among the highest that the president had put on any nation, but they did not appear in public today after the greeting. There was no joint press conference, but both of them afterwards, the president on social media and Lula in a press conference at the Brazilian embassy, said this was a good meeting. They talked about trade, they talked about Iran, actually, and they talked about Cuba, regional issues mostly, but a positive meeting in a political environment where that's a bit surprising, especially given how much Trump is supportive of Bolsonaro, the former Brazilian president, at the opposite end of the ideological spectrum from Lula da Silva.
As for Rubio and the Pope, can you break down the meeting between the two? Literally, like extending the olive branch seems positive, but do we know what was discussed? Was it like a kind of a standoff of sorts after Trump insulted the Pope?
Standoff's probably a bit too strong, and yeah, this one was heavy on the symbolism with an exchange of gifts that included the Pope giving Secretary Rubio a pen made of olive wood. He's noting that olive is the wood, the symbol of peace, the literal olive branch there, as you said. The readout that we got from the Vatican said this meeting did touch on wars around the world. We know that Iran would come up, and also points of political tension, which is a vague term that could encompass almost anything. But, Secretary Rubio talked about this meeting earlier in the week. He himself is a Roman Catholic. He was looking forward to it. He said going into this meeting that he would want to be focusing on issues where there is some agreement. The Vatican, for example, handles U.S. aid distribution in Cuba. That's an area of enormous interest to this administration and to the Secretary in particular. And also religious freedom in Africa. The Pope had just come back from that trip to Africa. So while I do think there were probably some thornier subjects discussed, and we'll get a chance to ask Secretary Rubio tomorrow, or journalists traveling with him will when he speaks to the press in Italy, I think the goal here was to find areas of agreement that could hopefully overshadow what has been a pretty unpleasant back and forth between the Vatican and the White House over the last month or so.
Yeah, with an olive pin branch. Very, very interesting. And finally, one thing that we can all agree on here at NBC, and sorry to put you on the spot, but if we have this picture here, huge congratulations today. Biggest news out of Washington, D.C. today for us. Chief White House correspondent Garrett Haake. Let's go, Garrett. I got to say, I just wanted to take a second to tell you how much I appreciate, we all appreciate the way that you translate everything that happens in the White House, on Capitol Hill, all of Washington into a way that we can all understand. You're always so dogged in the questions that you ask and the answers that you give us. Congratulations, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Gotti. Look, you can read the headlines anywhere, but to understand it, having a place like this to come talk about it, I think is so important. I always appreciate you having me, and thanks for the shout out and the cool photo.
Can't wait to see how you celebrate. We'll see you soon, bro.
Thanks, man.
Don't go anywhere. Up next, wild video of the moment a jet skier hit more than just rough waves, slammed into a whale. Plus, a political race that is drawing a lot of attention nationwide. The highlights from last night's LA mayoral debate. And also, we are trying a little something new here. If you see this QR code, that means that you can talk to us. You just come hang out in this chat. just have to scan through with your phone. We'll hold it up for a little bit here. Hopefully you can lock in. That's going to take you behind the scenes, streaming on YouTube, on Twitch, on TikTok. Swing by and let us know your thoughts all hour long, every single day. Oh no, we lost a viewer on TikTok. Oh well, maybe they'll trickle in. We are working on getting an ad to our show about that that hack, that data hack. So thank you guys so very much. I can't remember who it was that put that in there, but we're getting on it. So that's going to hopefully be coming up in headlines here. Scary times, dark times. Yep. As sort of foreign influence in our politics, Nolan, specifically, what do you want to see? Vinny, for you, what up? How's it going? Great to see you. Oh yeah, author Devin, that was you, right? College platform Canvas hit by hackers, huge. We're going to talk about it because you guys were talking about it in the chat before the show. We've got it in headlines coming up. So from the chat to the TV coming up.
1 minute.
If AI content could be on the blockchain, that would be a lot of, that would be a very fat ledger, a very, very fat ledger. That'd be interesting. Let's see.
45.
What are my thoughts? My thoughts are I'm not an epidemiologist. Let's see, big screen with everybody in this chat. That would be fun, right? We actually were thinking about, consolidating the chat so TikTok could see YouTube and could see Twitch, but
30.
Section 230 stuff. Let's see. Really? My nanny couldn't submit her homework to her professor because of this hack. Really? Wow.
20.
All right, here we go. Hello, Tanika. All right, we've got headlines, and then we've got a hackathon afterwards, and then we're going to be talking about this little eagle out there in
4,
Chi-Town.
3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some headlines we are watching tonight. A partial verdict was reached today in the murder trial of former Ohio Sheriff Deputy Jason Meade. He was found guilty of reckless homicide in connection with the 2020 fatal shooting of Casey Goodson Jr., but a mistrial was declared on the murder charge as the jury failed to reach that unanimous decision. And the search continues for a 26-year-old named Sandrash Krishna, last seen hiking in the Grand Canyon National Park on April 28th. Investigators are looking to speak with the person who turned in Krishna's backpack to a nearby lodge. His family saying in a press conference yesterday that they are still holding on to hope. And a criminal group says it has stolen hundreds of millions of records from teachers and students across the country. This huge cyber attack hit Canvas, which is the most popular classroom program used in America. Names, email addresses, private messages, and IDs, student IDs were all stolen in this breach. The group Shiny Hunters is claiming responsibility and asking for a ransom, saying if demands are not met, they're going to release billions of messages between teachers and students. And over in Tennessee, the Republican-led state legislature passed a new congressional map carving up the state's only majority black district. Now, a Memphis-based seat held by a longtime Democrat will be split into 3 districts, spreading out Democratic voters. Governor Bill Lee signed the bill into law this afternoon, positioning Republicans to gain a seat in November's midterm election. And there's a video capturing the moment a jet ski slammed into a whale off the coast of Vancouver on Monday. According to Canadian officials, the rider seen here being launched into the air after that crash suffered a leg injury, was taken to the hospital. The gray whale appears to be in good condition and was seen feeding and moving normally right after all that. Meanwhile, this is the current scene for parts of Mississippi after officials say 14 tornadoes tore across the state last night. They say those storms ripped through over 400 homes and 17 people were hurt. Luckily, no one was killed, and NBC's Aaron Gilchrist has more on the trail of destruction they left behind.
Tonight in Mississippi, neighborhoods left unrecognizable, around 400 homes damaged. Multiple tornadoes reported ripping through the state, leaving miles of destruction. Car windows blown out, trees blocking roads, homes moved off their foundation. Sirens blaring last night as residents took shelter.
Oh, shoot.
Lightning apparently striking this house, sending it up in flames. Some residents trapped during the storm, with more than 15,000 without power across 5 counties. Authorities say there were at least 17 injuries, but no deaths. Parts of Bugachita demolished. Judy Pyatt says she and her husband hid inside their shower, the only part of their house to survive the storm.
And all of a sudden, the house was rumbling and shaking.
In Purvis, just before service was about to start, the dangerous weather tearing apart this church. The congregation huddling in the hallway.
We just started praying and people started singing, and I was over here by the wall, and this wall was just moving back and forth.
It all comes after ferocious wind and heavy rain slammed Florida and Alabama, completely flooding roads.
My car's flowing right now.
Communities now coming together and beginning to clean up.
All I can feel right now is just honestly
really
thankful. Just thankful for life.
And here in California, LA saw quite a fiery debate last night in the mayor's race. Current Mayor Karen Bass, LA City Council member Nithya Raman, and reality TV star Spencer Pratt went head-to-head over some of the city's biggest issues: crime, homelessness, and the response to the devastating Palisades fire. But one of the most tense moments of the night started with this unexpected accusation. Listen.
You're going to watch today as Mayor Bass and Spencer Pratt attack me because they want to run against each other in the general election.
Mayor Bass and I are definitely not working together. I blame this person for burning my house and my parents' house and my town and all my neighbors down. You think it's easier to run against the incumbent mayor with all the unions or a random city council member who's been a failure for 6 years?
And afterward online, a lot of the focus really centering on whether this did just become a two-candidate kind of race, Mayor Karen Bass and Spencer Pratt. Even prediction markets shifting dramatically, with Bass surging, Pratt gaining momentum, and Raman taking a major hit. But what really seems to make this race unpredictable, the biggest question mark, is the number of voters still undecided, with the primary election less than a month away here in LA. Dana Griffin is joining us now to talk through some of the details with us. Dana, another striking moment on the debate stage that we've seen going viral all across Los Angeles and beyond is how to tackle homelessness, right?
Yeah, it's such a major issue in LA. I mean, here in the city alone, you've got some 40,000 unhoused people. It is down a little from last year, down maybe 3.4% compared to last year. So some progress under Mayor Bass, but obviously a major issue that each candidate recognizes, but they're all trying to address it differently. And so take a listen to the exchange about the homelessness issue.
Inside Safe is the only citywide program that we have had that has reduced homelessness 2 years in a row.
I like to say Inside Safe makes all of us outside unsafe. The reality is, no matter how many beds you give these people, they are on super meth. They are on fentanyl. Councilwoman Raman's plan for treatment first, I will go below the Harbor Freeway tomorrow with her, and we can find some of these people she's going to offer treatment for. She's going to get stabbed in the neck.
Yeah, so those are some of the things, the inflammatory, fiery things that we were just hearing throughout the night. And as you played earlier, Raman, accused the two of them trying to team up against her because she thinks that they want to end up on the ballot together in November. Pratt says, hey, he'd rather run against Raman because she's less experienced than Bass. And then some experts believe that Bass would probably want to run against Pratt because he's the celebrity, less experience, versus running against Raman, who has more of that progressive feel, may kind of feel more like a Mamdani candidate, like what we saw in New York.
Yeah, and we've got to talk about that exchange between Bass and Pratt on the Palisades fire, because that is so central. That's so central to his platform, so central to his story, his entire life. Let's listen here.
A lot of people talk about climate change and hurricane-force winds. The winds in the Pacific Palisades never reached higher than 40 miles per hour.
He talked about the winds. That is just completely inaccurate. If that were accurate, then the planes would have been able to fly. And so the winds reached close to 100 miles an hour, and the planes were unable to fly.
So she's an incredible liar. Everyone on their phones, Google it. 40 weather stations in the Pacific Palisades. It never went above 40 miles.
And then you've got Colleen Williams, the incredible journalist over at KNBC, being like, no name calling, no name calling.
Exactly.
And I gotta say, like, you watch what happens online and on social media, and that was the only name calling that we saw. Colleen Williams taking Spencer Pratt to task for that.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was somewhat cordial, and then back online, like, things are a little bit more spicy.
Oh,
right?
yeah, they definitely go at each other, especially online. I will say that Mayor Bass apologized for not being in the country during the wildfires.
Yeah, she took some responsibility. It was the first time that we kind of saw her really try to stake a claim and then move forward.
Exactly, because she still wants a second term. So it's like, hey, I still have work to do. I'm apologizing. Let's move past this. But she did push back on the claims that Pratt called that wildfire reservoir empty. And she says, like, at one point, yeah, it may have been used for that purpose, but that was decades ago, and now it's used for drinking water. And so even if it had water there, the winds were too high, and that's why the planes couldn't fly. So she's also trying to not take on all of the fierce criticism by also saying, hey, Mother Nature did play a major role in this fire. So it's still a very unpredictable race, and one that is gaining national attention.
Yeah, very much so. Dana, thank you so much. And let's bring in Conan Nolan, political reporter from our Los Angeles NBC station and one of the moderators of the debate last night. Conan, incredible job last night. Spencer Pratt, he was really the wild card heading into this debate. Going into this, a lot of people either knew him as kind of the villain from the MTV show The Hills, or this just big social media personality. But after the debate, and again, Spencer he's a genius online, and this was an online poll. 89% say that he won that night. And I got to ask you, you've been watching this so closely, like, what kind of evolution are we seeing as we get closer to the primaries here?
Well, it's all about expectations, Gotti, as you know. A lot of people, including the moderators, myself included, thought that he might borrow from the Donald Trump playbook and interrupt and name call, and that didn't happen. His comportment was, he rose to the occasion. If you were inclined to vote for Spencer Pratt before this debate, there was nothing to dissuade you of voting for him. And if you were wondering whether he had the maturity, perhaps is one word you might use, to actually be the mayor of what is outside of New York, the largest city in the nation, then you came out of this thinking, well, maybe he can handle this job of, 50,000 employees and 55 different boards and commissions and a huge bureaucracy. So he did well, no doubt about it. There was a moment, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a moment where he actually looked out for the mayor. He said, oh, by the way, she hasn't responded yet to this question. It's her turn. We weren't expecting any of that. The mayor actually did a pretty good job, I think, in defending her record. She's a pro. Nithya Raman had an uneven night.
Yeah, uneven. That is a very astute and generous observation. But even on the Colleen Williams taking Spencer Pratt to task for saying liar. I mean, liar. Like, if you've been following all of the things that are happening online, liar is it is a very polite word compared to everything that we've seen. And the debate, it still followed the same type of rules that you're used to on a political stage. You all did a phenomenal job moderating, but then, Conan, there's this battlefield of AI and of social media, and it's taken political attack ads to another level, one that we've never seen before. And Spencer Pratt, he is a true native of that world, and he does seem to have quite the home field advantage when it comes to AI attack ads, at least. How do you see all of that influencing this race in a way that, again, is uncharted territory?
Right, and some are really vitriolic, those social media posts. Now, his campaign says he's not responsible for that, he has done plenty of online commercials, including one that's gotten 11 million hits. That's where he's in front of the mayor's home in Hancock Park and in front of Nithya Raman's home in Silver Lake. And then he's in front of his trailer where on his burned out lot in the Pacific Palisades. But yeah, and that's one of the reasons we thought he was going to go scorched earth in the debate, which he didn't do, is that some of the social media posts are right out of the Donald Trump playbook. And yeah, he's garnered a lot of attention. But Gadi, one of the questions we have is how much of that online attention is from outside the city of Los Angeles? Sure, he's getting support from guys like Joe Rogan, doesn't live in the city. And yes, there's a lot of national attention to his campaign. But remember, L.A. is more than the Pacific Palisades. He could get every vote in this area where 7,000 homes were lost and still lose in a landslide. It's very, very amorphous city. There's South Los Angeles, Boyle Heights, the neighborhoods of the San Fernando Valley, and Karen Bass has been very, very good at bringing those coalitions together.
Yeah, it will be an internationally televised primary and a race, and it will not be an election all around the world. That is such a good point. Conan Nolan, always appreciate your insight. Thank you so much for being with us. And coming up in the future of everything, taking you inside of one of Georgia Tech's hottest clubs, a hackathon where students are using AI to complete their task. Well, see, that was great. I mean, Conan he's so cool. He's the best. I sat next to him when I was at KNBC, and it was, that's how I learned.
What a legend.
Yeah, LA politics. He's the best.
Well, no wonder you guys have such great chemistry.
I love that guy. I love him. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's
all right.
Awesome. All right, have a great night.
Say bye. Say bye to the chat.
Bye, everybody.
That's Dana. Oh, and there's Big Mike just freaking hype-mogging everybody like he normally does. Mother's Day is Sunday. That's right. Don't forget it. User 145176606. You're early. You're supposed to come tomorrow when they announce, I don't know, some sort of something in the UAP, UFO saga that we've been following. TikTok and Talk dropped today. Okay. Hey, Big Mike. Hi says hello. Man, Big Mike's stealing the show. Stealing the show. FTRF. Thank you so much, but you guys you keep those roses to yourselves, TikTok. Let's see. Is he running Republican? I hear a rumor he's running independent. Technically, it's an independent primary, and he is being a little bit like, I think today he was asked by some reporter, like, oh, here you go, hold on. To be continued.
4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Tonight in the future of everything, imagine being a college student getting ready to enter the workforce in the next few years. Is the job you've been studying for going to become obsolete? That is a real concern, especially among computer science majors. But now universities like Georgia Tech and Atlanta are addressing that. They are partnering with a major AI company to try to prepare students to work with AI instead of being replaced by it. And Kathy Park met some of the students in the loop of AI programming.
It's Saturday at Georgia Tech, and students are filing into one of the hottest clubs on campus. No dance floor, no DJ. This club runs on laptops and AI.
We're going to a hackathon. Think of it as a race where students have a set amount of time to solve a problem using technology, in this case, AI.
This is a Claude Builders Club sponsored by Anthropic. But today, I'm giving the assignment.
This is the first time you guys are seeing this prompt.
The students have just 3 hours to create a health app for people on the go using AI.
Design a tool that removes the guesswork from staying healthy in real life. Let's start the clock.
With the clock ticking,
so it's essentially both a mobile app and a web app.
They broke into teams, doing what countless companies will someday count on them to do.
So from what I was thinking, we could have a dashboard.
Develop products using artificial intelligence.
Wait, look at this.
So can students actually increase productivity with the help of AI instead of being replaced by it? We asked the Associate Dean of Georgia Tech's College of Computing.
Why is it still essential for them to be a part of the process?
If this is going to be a tool that a human is going to use, you'd want the testing to be done by humans. Humans are going to be in the loop quite a bit when it comes to AI in terms of refining whatever it is that it produces.
Back in the room, we're seeing this in real time.
It's a lot of just using AI now, and so we think our role is more about thinking of like creative, useful ideas.
All right, so the teams have been going for about 2 hours now. There are minutes left on the clock, so let's check in to see how they're doing.
We're struggling to make a working product because of the short time span.
As the clock winds down, there are signs that AI still needs humans.
Merging this is going to be hell. We have 44 minutes, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Time's up. Laptops down.
In just 3 hours, AI helped turn ideas into products.
Hello, judges.
Now it's time for the judges.
This is kind of like an all-encompassing meal tracker.
Just make sure you're pairing those carbs with enough protein in each meal.
6 doses chicken, 1/2 cup cooked white rice.
The winner.
So if I just show it right here.
An app that turns healthy eating streaks into a game.
Lock it in and you're one meal closer to rebuilding that streak.
Right.
Amazing.
Exactly.
A real-life lab where students are using AI to one day get hired, not replaced. Kathy Park, NBC News, Atlanta.
Those apps with streaks get me every time. Kathy Park, very cool. Thank you so very much. And coming up, a look at the growing trend of Cuban influencers, Cuban mom influencers, using their platform to document everyday lives amid that crisis in Cuba. Clear. All right. Here, where were we? Okay, we are going to run out of fresh water. Stop using AI, Cassie says. Interesting, Cassie. I think we should definitely stop saying thank you to AI, or stop, maybe responding to its questions where it's like probing and trying to get more information about us. And you're like, wait, no, I asked you the question. Like, why are you asking me questions? That seems like a waste of water to me. But, to each their own. Those glasses, I want a pair. Yeah, the Google ones or the AR ones, those look pretty cool. Happened to the other fields though. Kat, I'm hoping that in education means more teachers in the classroom. Like, let's just flood schools and education with all of the people that are going to be displaced. That would be fantastic. Let's see, what else? Oh, about that Spencer thing. That's a big question about whether or not he's a Republican. He is registered as a Republican in the past. This is a nonpartisan, like independent primary, and then we'll see what happens on the ballot. But he was asked about he's like, if you see a small R next to my name, you should think of it as results or something like that. So he's been kind of sidestepping the question on whether he is going as an independent or a Republican. But we're going to continue to try to get answers. Let's see. There was a story about AI stating how AI can make more efficient AI. Yep. Time to say bye. Present Gotti. Time to say bye to Present Gotti and hi to past Gotti. That's true. This is a part of the show where everything we pre-recorded, which is about to pop up.
Some of her posts include influencer-style content like Day in the Life, Get Ready With Me, and Get Ready With Me videos. Her posts, part of a growing movement of moms using social media to document daily life inside communist Cuba. A combination of communist government mismanagement and long-standing sanctions against the Cuban regime, now coupled with a U.S. fuel embargo, have the country facing its worst economic crisis in decades. The videos posted by Ivizate and other moms notably avoid direct criticism of the Cuban government. Cuba has a long history of imprisoning dissidents. Right now, more than 1,200 political prisoners are locked up according to some human rights organizations, a claim the Cuban government denies. Everyone's reality is unique, she says, so I decided to show mine. We asked her if she's concerned about how audiences, including the government, might interpret her videos. I know they touch on social issues, she says, but it's my reality, and I'm not trying to hide it.
Hola.
Another woman, a mom and doctor who spoke to the Washington Post, which first reported on this trend, has more than 70,000 followers on Instagram.
Viviendo en las ruinas de un país.
Posting about getting ready for work after 30 hours in the dark.
Y este es mi salario del mes.
In this clip, laying out Cuban pesos on the table, saying it's her salary, about $20 US a month, showing some of what she's able to purchase with her income.
Aprovecho y en el mismo carbón.
Another mom uploading how she cooks over coal stones as rampant power outages continued throughout the island, sharing how she charges her portable batteries when there is power. NBC News has reached out to these users and more, but have not heard back. Another user we're not showing declined to be interviewed over concerns of retaliation from the government. I want them to know what an ordinary Cuban mother goes through, Ivisate says, adding, I think there's an awakening to the reality many Cubans are living. George Solis, NBC News.
A reminder of reality in Cuba right now. George Solis, thank you so much. And still to come, Amtrak celebrating America turning 250 years with a decked-out train. Tom Costello is going to give us a look. But first, you got to see this. A historic hatch in Chicago. A baby bald eagle was born in the Windy City for the first time in over 100 years. Experts say this is a sign that the city's restoration efforts are working. There's just one problem. That little guy still needs a name. The city has kicked off a contest for the little eaglet, and they will reveal the name on June 1st. We'll be right back. And finally tonight, all aboard Amtrak's Freedom 250 train. That special edition train took off for the first time from Philadelphia, and our Tom Costello was there for that inaugural ride. Tom?
Hello from Union Station. You can hear the train coming in, and this train is about to leave. This is the America 250 ticket, taking about 25 fourth graders, by the way, who've already boarded the train. They're going up to Philadelphia, and they're going to be recreating or watching a recreation of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, even meeting Ben Franklin. Now, let me tell you about the train here. This is a brand new Acela wrapped in a Freedom 250 paint scheme, and they worked on this over 150 man-hours at Acela, at Amtrak. This is one train that's going to be rolling on the tracks in celebration of America 250, but there are also buses and there are planes, all part of the wrap and all part of the celebration. And I talked to the Secretary of Transportation just a short time ago.
And what's important is so many Americans will ride Amtrak or fly planes or be on a bus. And it's just a great reminder that we are celebrating our birthday, number one. But number two, they're celebrating, but actually you as an American, you too should celebrate. Think about how you're going to celebrate this great American birth.
So this is just one piece of the America 250 celebration over the coming months here in Washington that's going to be very busy. On the White House grounds, they're going to be having an Ultimate Fight Championship fight on the White House grounds. And then in August, they're also going to be having a Formula One race through the streets of D.C. This America 250 train, wrapped for just this occasion, is going to be on the tracks in the Northeast Corridor, sporting President Trump's name along with the Secretary of Transportation. It is going to be the beginning of a months of celebration for the nation's birthday. Back to you.
Yeah, interesting to see our founding documents, or some of them, flying down the tracks there. Tom Costello, thank you so much. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned to NBC News Now.